All right, it's 4 minutes past 8. Just months after Auckland's long-fought local alcohol policy was adopted, the capital is looking to introduce something similar. An LAP outlines the location, number and trading hours for alcohol businesses in different areas. Wellington City Council has not yet outlined what it could look like for the capital, but recently voted to push back developing one until later this year. In a moment, we'll be speaking to Alcohol Healthwatch. But first, we're joined by bar owner Greg Wilson. Good morning, Greg. Tell me about the LAP for Wellington. Is it a good thing for you that it's been pushed back for now?
Good morning, Chris. Yeah, it is a good thing. Look, we don't actually think we need a LAP in Wellington. We've already, under the existing national default laws, already have regulation and controls that the district licensing committee can put in place, such as a one-way door policy or reduced trading hours. That's already baked in to the existing set of national laws. So, and it's already a heavily regulated industry that we work in. We don't need more regulation over regulation. It's just unnecessary, and actually we don't need it.
Do you think it's going to be a bit of a fait accompli, though, if it's pushed back further down the line, it'll happen eventually?
Oh, look, I think my conversations with councillors that I just don't think there's a massive appetite for it in Wellington. When you look at Auckland, Auckland's LAP cost over $1 million. You know, Wellington doesn't have the money. We had an 18% rate increase this year. Next year's another 13 to 17% rate increase. And I think ratepayers are going to question whether it's actually worth spending all this money on this. When actually we have the rules in place that we can already control licences right now. And actually also when you look around Wellington, you see a lot of empty tenancies around the place. You know, what's going to turn this city centre around is actually we need to have investment from private businesses into those empty tenancies to create a vibrant central Wellington city. Wellington deserves a world-class hospitality precinct, and it's really important.
How tough is it for Wellington bars and the hospo scene down there?
Well, look, last year I call it the winter of doom. You know, that 2024, the sales dropped back 25% and they stayed down for the whole entire year. And it was really tough. And a lot of businesses closed down as a result. Some businesses are teetering on the edge. And so it's not a good time to come along and actually with a big hammer, it's like a big blunt sort of instrument to come along and say, oh, it's all got too hard. Let's just close or reduce the operating hours, when actually we'd prefer a much more targeted approach, because the issues are around some of the social housing in the city centre. There's been a proliferation of social housing, and a lot of those people have alcohol and drug issues, and they're highly visible on Courtney Place and Cuba Street. And so to come along with the big hammer and go, right, that's it, we're going to reduce all the hours or reduce the trading opportunities for businesses, when actually a targeted approach will be a smart way to deal with the issues, and rather than unfairly disadvantage, you know, every licence.
Do you think you might be overestimating how tough it might be for you? Auckland doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, does it?
Well, we look at Auckland's LAP, it's a pretty sensible approach. You know, I mean, so, you know, if we did have an LAP, if it looked like Auckland's LAP, we probably wouldn't be too worried about that. But we are concerned. When we hear the word LAP, what it means for us is more restrictions and more controls. And so we actually don't think that's actually necessary because the current law, you know, already has that baked in.
You've obviously got a vested interest as a bar owner in Wellington. So what would you say to the council when it does come time to look at this?
I'd say to the council, it's, you know, their job is to create the right environment for businesses to invest and be successful, but also balance the vibrancy of the city, not only now, but for the future. And if future businesses are looking to invest in Wellington, if the framework is right and the trading opportunities are available, then they will invest in the city centre. And right now, Wellington needs more investment to be a vibrant, world-class hospitality destination.
Greg Wilson, Wellington bar owner, thank you for joining us this morning. Andrew Galloway from Alcohol Healthwatch is the executive director there. He's with me in studio. Good morning.
Good morning. What
do you reckon? Does he have a few fair concerns about how this could affect the hospo industry there?
Look, first of all, I want to say I appreciate the hard economic climate for hospitality in Wellington in particular. But I think, as we've seen in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, the LAP has brought in really positive changes. Most of the biggest changes for the Auckland local alcohol policy was around off-licence sales. So bringing back off-licence sales from 11 p.m. till 9 p.m. It's inconvenienced a very small number of people, but it's meant less harm. And that's what the evidence told us the LAP could would do. It hasn't brought in massive changes to hospitality precincts. I drove through Ponsonby on Saturday night and it was still heaving. It might mean people come out earlier because the bars close earlier, if that's one of the changes that Wellington moved to do. But the development of a local alcohol policy by law has to have consultation, including businesses. So I don't think it's something to be too concerned about. We certainly encourage it, and I think when it comes time for Wellington to do that, we'll lean in and support with that evidence that we know works. We can give some of the experience with what's happened in Auckland, and I think it could be a really positive thing.
Seems like the big concern for Greg is the old sledgehammer to crack a nut thing, though, isn't it? That you need to be super targeted because otherwise you end up doing more damage to the industry, right?
But most councils have them. It's the big cities that haven't had them, and that's because the industry appeals have delayed the process, especially in Auckland. He's right, it did cost $1 million. It didn't need to cost $1 million. The recent law change has taken out the right to appeal, so it won't cost that much. And it is targeted. These things do have a huge amount of research that go into them by council, using the medical officers of health, the police, the agencies that have that data. And I think we can reduce the impact on emergency departments. We can reduce interpersonal violence, family violence, police time spent on this. There's so many benefits.
Can you quantify at this early stage how Auckland has benefited from the last few months of having this?
I can give you some. It's too early to say. There's no evaluations out yet, but we are capturing the voices of people who live in Tamaki Makaurau, and what we've heard, like I said, some have been mildly inconvenienced. Many haven't noticed any difference at all. Some have talked about noticing quieter evenings and less noise and disruption, increasing perceptions and safety. Positive comments such as the impact this is having on people drinking less and being able to afford food for their children. You know, things like that are really good benefits. One emergency department nurse talked about how since the changes, she noticed a quieter time in the emergency department over Christmas and New Year's this year as a result, or in line with the changes. So that really lines up with the evidence that we presented and others presented. So it's a really good sign so far, but there's lots of evaluations to come.
Andrew Galloway from Alcohol Healthwatch and Greg Wilson, the Wellington bar owner, thank you so much to the both of you for coming on this morning.